My last flight. The turbulence outside the plane was like nothing I'd ever experienced. At some points, the plane was almost at a 90-degree angle. We could hear the thunder and see the lightning flashing in bright and deadly streaks across the sky. The seatbelt sign had flashed on what seemed like ages ago. But even before that, people were holding on to their seats for dear life. The pilot had been making announcements through the intercom, but even those had stopped after a while. The air hostess was strapped down in their seats, so we couldn't even ask them what was happening or when we were going to land. The plane's Wi-Fi had long since cut out as the wind howled and the thunder boomed and the lightning flashed. I found myself feeling sleepy. I had been up for hours, and now even a storm like this couldn't keep me awake. I drifted off, and when I woke up, what must have been hours later, as the sky was now even darker, the thunder was still roaring all around us. I looked for my bag and saw that it had fallen off the rack and was now sitting at my feet. I reached down for it and pulled out my phone to check the time. The phone read that it was 8 at night, but that wasn't possible. I had fallen asleep at 8, and it felt like I had slept for hours. I tried to rationalize. Maybe I had just closed my eyes and I felt so tired I thought I fell asleep. That must be it. It was the only rational explanation. I decided to play one of the games on my phone to pass the time, but I couldn't concentrate with the thunder still booming. I checked the little clock at the top of my phone screen. 8 p.m. What? I had been trying to play that game for at least 20 minutes. I know some people have a terrible sense of time, but I am not one of those people. I definitely had not been playing that game for less than a minute. I turned to look around me at the people in the other seats. They were all in the same positions as I remembered. I turned back to my phone. 8 p.m. I stared and stared at that little clock, waiting, begging, praying for that little number to tick up. It didn't. Suddenly, one of the stewardess came marching up the aisle towards me. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to put that phone away." I was so stunned by her unusual request that I simply did as she asked, like I was on autopilot. I decided I would ask her about what was happening, just for a bit of peace of mind. "Do you know how long we have until we land?" She smiled at me indulgently, like an adult would to a child. "We will be landing shortly. Please just relax and enjoy the flight." The stewardess strutted off back to her seat. The seatbelt sign had clicked off and the turbulence had died down for now, so I took the opportunity to use the bathroom. I checked my phone again. 8 p.m. What was happening? Was I going mad? I strolled back to my seat and peeked out the window. The sky was still an angry gray and it was raining heavily, but there were none of those abrasive thunderclaps and blinding flashes of lightning anymore. Just a regular rainy night. A woman a little ways down the aisle from me got up to use the bathroom. As she walked by my seat, she dropped a little slip of paper in my lap and just kept walking. I unfolded it and read the short message. "I'm awake too." Awake? I scrambled for a pen and wrote back. Awake from what? What's happening? The woman left the bathroom and shuffled past my seat. As she went by, I pushed the piece of paper back into her hand. She didn't go back to her previous seat though. She sat down in the empty one, right in front of mine. I could see her through the gap in the chairs. She was scribbling an answer. She pushed it through the chairs to me, and as I unfolded it, I opened my mouth to ask her a question. She shushed me by putting a finger to her lips and motioned for me to open the paper. "What time is it?" I looked up at her, panic clear in my eyes, and her face looked like she already knew the answer. I checked my phone again. 8 p.m. I showed the woman my phone screen. She barely glanced at it. All she did was mouth, "I know," and pulled out her phone to show me. 8 p.m. Okay, not okay. The clock on my phone stopping. Sure, It's unlikely but plausible. Two phones stopped at the exact same time and everyone else in the exact same positions they were in at the time except for the stewardess telling us we can't have our phones out. Creepy. But why us? Why was this woman and myself the only people left awake in this unholy nightmare? Was it the storm? But it couldn't have been. The storm had been going all day. Just now we were in it. What was going on? Abruptly, the woman got up and went back to her original seat. I took a sip of my water from my bottle. I just couldn't figure out what was wrong. Why me? Why her? It felt like I was in a horror movie. I decided that one way or another, I was getting answers. I moved towards the front of the plane and none of the hostess even tried to stop me. They just sat in their seats, still as statues. I pushed through the curtain and into the cockpit. I tried asking the co-pilot what was going on, but he just stared straight ahead, not even acknowledging that I was there. I strode over to him and almost fainted. Right across his chest was a huge bloodstain, leaking from a gash that went right across his torso. Same with the pilot. The plane had been set to autopilot, probably so we didn't crash. I staggered out of the cockpit, passing the hostesses, still sitting in the same positions. Although facing them now, I could see why. In the center of their chest were bloodstains, on every single one, though not as gruesome as the pilot's. I screamed, this time running from the bodies and back to my seat. On every single person I passed, I could now see a bloodstain on their chest. Passing by them before from behind, I couldn't see, but now I got the full and gory view. I was on a plane of corpses. I passed the seat of the woman who had dropped the paper in my lap, but instead of a blood-stained hole, I saw an awful grin. My stomach dropped. Her grin changed to a smile that was almost kind. She reached down to her bag, slowly unzipped it, and pulled out a kitchen knife. I started to whimper. I was about to die. How I exposed the vile underbelly of TikTok. I became infatuated with a blonde girl on TikTok named Chloe, so much so that I would watch her live streaming content on a daily basis for the past month. She did nothing more but hold her phone in her hand while laying in her bed and respond to mostly men's instant messages. I always thought it was kind of pathetic, but the girl was very attractive and was way out of my league, and she would actually respond to my messages when she was streaming live. Sometimes there would be 150 people watching her live streaming. Then other days there would be only 8 people viewing, who were mostly guys. Tonight is a slow night for her, where she only had 8 viewers. But then again, it's 2 a.m., where most people are sleeping. As 2:15 a.m. approached, she hit an all-time low of having only 4 viewers, which I didn't mind because then I would be the focal point of her attention. I always thought that she was alone in her room when she was streaming live. However, I just heard something deeply disturbing that wasn't meant to be heard by her viewers. I heard a male voice whisper, "Do something," where Chloe's face looked really fearful after hearing the male voice, and she said, "Come on guys, come back. What can I do to make you guys not leave?" "What do you mean?" I messaged her. "Oh, I just want everyone to have fun and keep watching me," she typed back. She couldn't get her viewers up this early in the morning, so she said, "Good night everyone." Then her live streaming was disconnected. I was a little bummed out that Chloe ended her live sessions, so I browsed TikTok to see if any other girls were streaming live. Then I came across another attractive blonde whose name is Livy, so I joined her live session. She too had a lower viewer count because it was so late at night. I typed in, "Hi Livy, how are you doing tonight?" "I'm fine. I'm just hanging out. That's cool. How old are you? I'm 20 years old, Livy responded. Then I heard a faint male voice say, show more of your chest, where Livy's face went from relaxed to looking very uncomfortable fairly quick. The male voice seemed eerily similar to the voice on Chloe's live session. Livy pulled down on her dress without exposing her nipples, which drew in more people who were casually scrolling through TikTok, and within a minute, her viewer count went up significantly to the point where she couldn't answer everyone's questions. Livy looked uncomfortable, exposing most of her chest. As I started to look at Livy's bedroom, where she was filming her live session from, I noticed that when she pointed her phone's camera to the ceiling, that it was the same ceiling fan, an unusual octagonal ceiling shape as Chloe's room. I thought to myself that what are the chances that someone has the same exact ceiling fan and the same highly unusual ceiling layout? So I continued to watch Livy's live session to pick up on other characteristics of her room. Then I said, "What the hell?" out loud when I saw that Livy had the same dresser and her closet was in the same place as Chloe's. "This is the same room as Chloe's," I said out loud. Being that I'm 31 years old and older than most of the other male viewers on TikTok, I am probably the only person who cares enough to pick up on the room's similarities to the point where it's undeniably the same bedroom. I always thought these young women were just doing these live sessions for fun while hoping to make some extra money. However, this is the first time that I thought something really sinister was going on. I thought to myself, why would Chloe leave her bedroom so another young woman could pretend that it's her bedroom to start another live streaming session? There was no other logical explanation other than these girls were working in shifts and were more than likely being forced to do these live sessions. Something else that irked me was when a male viewer would jokingly type into Chloe's live session, "I'll pay you if I can come over to hang out with you," where Chloe would respond to those offensive comments with, "Send me a private message," which I previously had thought was just a joke, but now I'm assuming that these girls are unwillingly prostituting themselves out. So I typed in, "I'll pay you if I can come over to hang out with you," into Livy's live streaming session. Like clockwork, she responded back, "Send me a private message." So I sent the private message and Livy responded, "Where do you live?" "I live in Pennsylvania." "Oh, I'll be in Maryland in 2 weeks from now." Livy messaged me back, "That's not horribly far from Pennsylvania. Can I see you if I drive to Maryland?" I responded, "Sure, if the price is right. LOL. Livy responded, "How about $200? I think I'll be too busy when I visit Maryland to see you." "How about 500? I think I can find the time to see you. LOL. "Okay, how do I send you the money then?" "Send the 500 to this PayPal account that I'll copy and paste in a second, and then I'll send you the address and time when you can see me." Once again, I thought this conduct was really unusual, and I doubted that the person who I sent the private message to was actually Livy, but was more than likely the guy who I heard in the background. I thought to myself, 500 is a good amount of money, but it's also a figure that most young men could come up with. The most obvious thing to do was wait until Chloe came on her live session tomorrow and ask her the same question of, "Can I come see you?" I woke up the next day and went to work. Then I came home and waited for Chloe to come on. I logged onto TikTok with one of my dummy accounts and eventually she logged onto her live session. I waited a few minutes, then I typed in, "I'll pay you if I can come over to hang out with you," where Chloe typed in the same phrase as Livy did, "Send me a private message." I went through the same back and forth messaging where I almost couldn't believe it when Chloe messaged me that she will be in Maryland in 2 weeks and I had to pay her $500 to get an address and a time. I now had the disgusting feeling that these young women were somehow being trafficked, so I paid the $500 to both Chloe's and Livy's PayPal accounts, and unsurprisingly, I was given the same Comfort Inn hotel address in Glen Burnie, Maryland, but with different hotel rooms and different times. I now was on a mission to uncover how many young women were being exploited on TikTok. So I continually sent the "I'll pay you if I can come over to hang out with you" message on different TikTok dummy accounts that I had created. Amazingly, 5 other girls said that they were going to be in Maryland in 2 weeks. I didn't feel it was necessary to spend the $500 to get the actual address and time. So I waited the 2 weeks, then I drove to Maryland and waited in the hotel parking lot, where I could see both of the hotel rooms that Chloe and Livy had given me. I was about 5 hours early from seeing Livy, which was the first room and time that I was given to see. As I waited in the parking lot, I saw something extremely appalling, where a bunch of younger guys would drive into the parking lot and get out of their cars and then knock on predetermined hotel doors about once an hour, to include Chloe's and Livy's hotel room, where the hotel door would open and the young guys would go in. Seeing car after car pull into the hotel parking lot, then seeing some guy get out of his car and head to a predetermined hotel room kind of reminded me of the same visuals of watching countless people get out of their cars to go into a Blockbuster back in the day, or watching guys get out of their cars to go into a strip club. Because of the sheer endless volume of guys that would continually enter and exit the parking lot, I figured there must be at least 30 different hotel rooms, and this hotel was purposely selected because of its large parking lot and the ability for someone to watch from the parking lot at the various rooms that were being utilized by the TikTok girls. I noticed that there were 3 cars in the parking lot, where each car had a guy that was constantly watching the traffic coming in and out of the hotel rooms. These guys definitely looked like shady characters and weren't cops. Eventually, my time came to go to Livy's hotel room, so I got out of my car, where I felt a sense of nervous enthusiasm to see what was actually going on. I knocked on Livy's door, and when she answered the door, right away, I could tell that she was really high on some type of substance, which might have been crack or ecstasy. Livy definitely didn't have the same personality that she displayed on TikTok. She actually handed me a condom within 5 minutes, where I almost threw up from the vileness that was occurring. Livy was out of it, that I couldn't even hold a conversation with her, and I could tell that she was brainwashed not to ask for help or anything along those lines. I saw enough of what I needed to see, and I gave the condom back to her. Then I went back to my car. I felt a complete sense of disgust and sleaziness come over me, where I couldn't even get out of my car 2 hours later to see Chloe during my assigned time. I decided to just hang out in the parking overnight and see what would happen in the morning. The next morning at about 8 a.m., a large commercial Mart's passenger bus pulled into the driveway, which woke me up from my deep sleep. At about 8:15 a.m., each TikTok girl was being pushed out of a hotel room by some unknown guy who went from room to room. At about 9 a.m., I saw about 50 girls get onto the bus, which nearly made me throw up. Then the bus pulled away, and I decided to follow the bus. The bus eventually got onto Interstate I-80 West, and it just kept driving and driving, where I almost fell asleep behind the wheel. I tried to stay far away back from the bus so the driver wouldn't know that I was following it, and I had to get gas at the same time, which I used the same caution and fueled up away from the bus. After almost 20 hours of painstaking driving, the bus got off I-80 and stopped in this hole-in-the-wall town in Wyoming called Rock Springs. The bus drove outside of the town and into this large compound that reminded me of the David Koresh compound that the authorities tried to overtake in Waco, Texas. I didn't pull into the compound for fear of my own life, so I just took down the coordinates and then went back to the town of Rock Springs where I pulled into a gas station. Because of the magnitude that was going on in that compound, I decided that I couldn't trust the local authorities, and instead I contacted the US Department of Homeland Security. Agent Sipkowitz took down the information that I had provided, and she seemed equally as shocked as I was regarding the magnitude of the operation. Agent Sipkowitz told me that she would contact me if any additional information was needed from me. The next day, Chloe and Livy didn't log onto their TikTok live accounts, so I typed Rock Springs into Google's recent news stories, and I saw a story about an overnight raid that had occurred, where I saw the photo of the compound in Rock Springs, and the title read, "A potential human trafficking operation was uncovered."